there. Welcome to this episode of the Playing in the Sandbox podcast. I am Tammy J. Bond, your host, and excited to have you join me for this episode on one of these things just doesn't belong. It's one of these critical things that you're going to inspect with me today, delve into with me today to see where am I using it and might I not want to be using it? And if you're anything like me, when you hear the title, one of these things just doesn't belong, you might be going back in your mind going, why does that sound like a song? Where's that tune coming from? Well, if you grew up watching Sesame Street like I did, you remember the episodes where they showed the items on the screen and sang you a little tune about one of these things doesn't belong. One of these things is not like the other. And you got to pick out what it was. And today I'm going to show you the 3 M's, and you're going to be able to identify of the 3 M's what one of these things doesn't belong. You know, Playing in the Sandbox, we are absolutely passionate about inspiring action in today's leaders. And I am excited to have you join me in the sandbox for this crucial conversation around one of these things doesn't belong, because I know that it's going to shift and change your management style, the way you communicate, and even the way you set expectations for performance with your team members. So kick off your shoes, get your pen and paper, step into the sandbox, and let's get into one of these things doesn't belong. Okay, welcome into the sandbox. I am excited for this topic today on one of these things just doesn't belong. And there are 3 M's. So 3 M's of who you are as a manager or leader. One of these, if you're doing one of these 3, it doesn't belong and you're going to want to remove it. And I'm going to help you with the tools on how to do that. But we're going to start out with M number 1, which is mentoring. Mentoring is something that is a tool that I hope all of you are already doing. You probably are maybe in a non-traditional sense. You might be doing it in a non-formal sense, meaning you have a mentor, but maybe the individual doesn't know that they're a mentor of yours, or you're mentoring other people and you don't even recognize that through your actions and the conversations that you have, you actually are mentoring these people around you, team members or colleagues or friends, neighbors. Mentoring is a phenomenal tool that, if used well, if used correctly, can truly elevate success. And why do I know that? Well, because the studies show it. Did you know that 80% of CEOs said that they received some form of mentorship? Mentors are people that care about your achievements and they strive to provide valuable guidance to help you progress in your career. So 80% of CEOs see the value in that, probably even before they were CEOs. And that same percentage, 80% of CEOs, if they seek value in it for themselves in some form that they've received it, that means they're going to promote it for others in their organization, which up levels the skill set, the knowledge base, and it spreads the wealth of knowledge in any organization. And as of 2022, 84% of US Fortune 500 companies have a visible mentoring program within their companies. And among US Fortune 250 companies, that number is now 90% and 96% among US Fortune 100 companies. And here's one thing. This statistic blew me away. Among the top 50 US companies, 100% of them have mentoring programs. Now, that means that in the top 50 companies in the US, those leadership teams, those CEOs all have said mentoring is crucial and critical to our success. It's not an HR function. It is a company function, and we are going to get behind it. Why? Because we believe in the power of transfer of knowledge and transfer of skills and transfer of giftings. Part of that I also believe, and why the increase since like 2020, we've seen a jump and we've in the number of CEOs and organizations that are in that have mentoring programs. And I think part of that is our millennial workforce. Our millennial workforce, y'all, really, they thrive in an environment where they're getting fed and fueled by leaders that are mentors, by people that they can watch and have conversations with to build them up, to build up their skill sets and their knowledge base. And that's just, that generation seeks that, because interestingly enough, that generation actually was without. They had a lot of coaches because they were in lots of sports and activities and doing, being shuffled around in the back seat of mom's minivans. But I think that they also, from my experience working with that generation, that they seek that knowledge out because they don't just want to read it, or they don't want to just sit in a classroom. It's actually that tangible knowledge transfer and touch point that they have with a real human being that they thrive in. It's relational. Mentoring is very relational. And I challenge you that if you have never had a mentor, my question for you is, why not? What's held you back? If you've never participated in a mentoring relationship, a actual formal mentoring relationship, I encourage you to do that. But first, actually, I would ask you, who would be a mentor for you? Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, I don't have time to plan all this out. And well, I'm going to give you the simple steps of what mentoring does, and really what it is and how you plan it out. But I'm going to challenge you in your thinking for a second. I can give you all of the tools to go implement, but you realize that you can set, and every mentoring program has a time certain, right? It's a 6 month relationship or a 1 year relationship, but that can come in the form of books as well. So you could choose an author, and maybe you're going to choose, I'm going to have Daniel H. Pink, phenomenal New York Times bestselling author, personal friend of mine. I'm going to have him mentor me for a whole year. And by doing so, that doesn't mean I'm going to be calling him. That doesn't mean he's going to be texting me. No, what that means is I'm going to read every one of his books for the whole year. So who's your who? Who's your person that you could think of that would be your mentor, that you would go and get all of their books, listen to their podcasts, watch their YouTube videos, schedule time each week where that mentor is unofficially, officially going to be teaching you through their skills that they have, that they're sharing into the world, and how can you apply them in your everyday. That's a mentoring program. You can choose to be intentional about that instead of being scattered and reading 50 books from 50 different authors. Well, that's great. You might just focus in on one that really has a communication style. They have the way that they orchestrate conversation, or the way that the skills that they have, or how they've trajected. Is that right? The trajectory of their career path, I'll say it that way, is something that motivates you. Or they have, I have a book sitting here by Dr. Henry Cloud. I love his work on boundaries, and I love his newest book on trust, right? So I get fueled every day by what Dr. Henry Cloud can build up in me so that I can be the best version of me that I can be. That's an informal mentoring program. Now, there's the mentoring programs that are formal. And as these top companies, these Fortune 500 companies, these 84% of Fortune 500 companies have visible mentoring programs, meaning they have someone that's a program manager over a mentoring program, and they have set it up where you as a protege know how to reach out and seek mentoring from somebody else. And if you want to be a mentor and it's your time to be a mentor, you're able to invite people to come in, or an individual to come alongside of you for a 6 month or a 3 month or a 1 year period of time. You see, because mentoring is focused on guidance, it's important that as the mentee or the protege, that I go in with the clear understanding of what I want from said mentor. What skill sets am I looking to build, and how do I believe that that mentor can help me? And then I'm going in with my powerful questions, 3 to 5 questions of what I'm seeking. And I'm asking for that guidance from them. I'm not asking the mentor. And this is where, for you, if you're that listener that's going, I don't have time to be a mentor, I don't even want to set that up. It's not for you as the mentor to set it up. It's actually for the mentee to set up. Seeking guidance means I'm going to be focused on what I want, and you're going to be, as the mentor, providing that guidance and sharing experiences and offering insights to help me as an individual develop my skill sets. Then with that focused guidance that I'm seeking from you, I'm coming in with my own action plan. And then we can negotiate the terms of that action plan. But a lot of times we get upside down thinking the mentor has to give it all to us. No, I know I can see where my gaps are. Now I might invite from my mentor, which I've done in the past. Here are gaps I'm seeing. You see me in the world operating. What are the gaps you see? Because I don't see, because I see that you have a great skill set of things that you can offer me, and I'll have that listed out to them. But then I want to ask what they might see and where the opportunity is that I might be missing for more. You see, mentoring also builds relationships. So in your workplace, which is why I love the number that 100% of the Fortune 50 companies all have formal mentoring programs within them. That's a small number it's astonishingly huge companies, but a small number of companies that have fully said we have mentoring programs because they understand the value of building relationships. That's how they got to be on that Fortune 50 and 100 and 250 and 500 list, because they understand the value in building relationships. Now, let me be clear, that mentoring relationship doesn't necessarily have to be within inside of your company. You can actually seek mentoring outside of your company from somebody that has a set of skill sets that you're looking to adopt or looking to apply or looking to learn more about, so that you up level your own leadership and management style, right? Your own personal skill sets. But a mentor fosters a supportive and trusting relationship. So as it's building relationship with your mentor, it's also aiming to empower individuals to reach their full potential through that relationship. They become a confidant. They become somebody that you can look at on those days where you just don't feel like you've got any more get up and go. And they're going to encourage you because they've seen you operate at higher levels, but they also have been given permission to speak authoritatively over you, not to squish you, put you down, but to elevate you and promote you. Because sometimes we can get so stuck that mirror, right? We got to look in the mirror for ourselves, but they're there to reflect the mirror on us so that we can see a different perspective as our mentor, sees us. That relationship also transfers. See, as we're building those stronger relationships with our mentors and our mentees, it actually builds a stronger relationship and bond because it opens up an organization. This is what I love about mentoring. It opens up an organization to be willing and have a culture of willing to ask for help and guidance and assistance, that it's not a bad thing. I don't have to know it all. I want to know more. I get to put myself in positions so that I'm learning more. You see, here's the other thing. Mentoring programs encourage growth. Mentoring encourages growth. Let me say it this way. Effective mentoring emphasizes personal and professional growth, aiming to empower you, right? Empower you. Here we go again about this full potential thing. We want people to reach more of their full potential, right? So if we're building relationships and we're opening up communication and we're offering and receiving constructive feedback, and then we're encouraging growth in one another, I also want you to know this, friend. Mentoring is a long-term perspective. It's not a short game, it's a long game, right? It's a long game. So you're going to have at minimum a 90-day, which is really, truly, actually very short. That's when I go in for one specific item and I know the person that's got it and I want to learn how to have bold conversations. And I think you can help me to ask better questions in 90 days. Boom. That's my question. That's my request as a mentor. And then I'm going to move on. I don't want you bouncing around from mentor to mentor. I want you to actually pick the long game. And that can be, as I said, you can go through and identify, okay, I really am seeking to start my own business one day. Like, this corporate job isn't me forever. I want to see. So my mentor is going to be, the author of the top author for entrepreneur books. So I can learn how to be shift into an entrepreneur mindset. You could absolutely do that and create your own mentoring program, and the person doesn't even know about it. But a formal mentoring program, all of them have a long-term perspective. It typically 6 months would be my minimum that I would say, between the mentor being committed to the mentee's development. At least 6 months. Most organizations have them be a year long. When they go longer than that, sometimes it can get a little redundant. And so maybe then I can stifle, and I don't want to do that. But the bottom line is this: with a mentoring program, make a commitment to yourself. Give it a try. Be a mentor, seek mentoring. Put yourself out there like the top 500, uh, Fortune 500 companies are doing. Put yourself out there and start a mentoring program, even if it's for you, of one individual. Maybe you're in a small company and you can see that there's somebody outside that you want to mentor with. Invite that conversation. You set up a cadence of how often you meet. You set up the cadence of what the conversation is going to be like. It's not just shooting the breeze. We're being focused and intentional about what we're seeking and the time frame of which we're given it. That's the best way to set up a mentoring program. It has a plan of action with it. And I want you to get your mind around that. Think about this for this new year. Okay. Who are you not to be a mentor? And who are you not to ask for mentoring? If Fortune 50 companies, or if the top, every 100% of the Fortune 50 companies find value in it, where do you want your company to grow to? And how might mentoring help you get there? Think about that. That's our first M, okay? Of one of these things doesn't belong. We're starting with M. Number one, mentoring. I'm not saying it's the one, it's one of three. Let's keep going. Okay, thank you for diving in to M number one, mentoring with me. And we're going to transition into if I can speak correctly, M number two. And as we do that, I want you to write mentoring. I want you to put your second M and your third M on your piece of paper. And at the end of this game, you're going to circle which one doesn't belong. I'll see you in the sandbox. Okay, so we talked about mentoring, and here we go. M number two is mindset. Now, if y'all know me at all, if you've listened to anything that I put out there, you'll know my passion for mindset and how it influences every decision that you make, positive or negative. And mindset, this is the key on M number two that I want you to lock onto. Mindset is transferable. Now, there are people in the industry, they're going to say, oh, I can't transfer my mindset. Through your actions, friend, yes, you do. Your actions transfer your mindset into the behaviors of the people around you. Think about that. So if you have a negative Nelly mindset, if you have a Harriet the Hoarder mindset, okay, two staples in our sandbox characters, right? In our cast of characters in the sandbox in the workplace, you have a negative Nelly and you have a Harriet Hoarder, right? Negative Nelly walks around like Eeyore with the cloud on top of her, and she's doom and gloom. And she's leading a team. You tell me if that mindset of negative, doom and gloom, the sky is falling every day, if that transfers or not to the team and to the attitude and the behaviors in the team. 100% yes. It takes strong stamina and continence of an individual on a team to not be sucked into, impacted by, frustrated by, even hurt by that negative Nelly mindset. So if you have a negative Nelly on your mind, on your team, that mindset of negative is transferring to the team that they lead. Okay. Harriet the Hoarder. She's the one that goes through the workplace and she takes all of the resources. She keeps all the resources. She doesn't transfer knowledge, right? It's a mindset. I'm going to keep it all for me because I'm safe and protected. I can trust that I'm going to take care of it and I can't trust the other people around me. So therefore, I'm keeping all of this. And she stockpiles information, stockpiles tools, stockpiles critical need to know information at times, not to sabotage. Harriet doesn't intentionally do it to sabotage. Harriet actually does it as a hoarder to keep everything so she knows where it's at and it doesn't get shared out because she can't trust the people. That is a mindset and it transfers. So people that Harriet leads are operating the same way. So when you talk about you have silos in the workplace, friend, you have might have silos in the workplace because you have a Harriet the Hoarder that in the mindset of being a hoarder and having to keep everything to themselves, and they can't actually share information across the aisle with anybody because if they do, they're going to get set up for failure. That's a mindset, and that is transferring to the other members of the team. Okay. So think about mindset in this way. There's a lot of information around mindset. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Carol Dweck wrote a great book. There's a lot of great information out there on this topic. And what I know to be true is that mindset emphasizes attitudes and beliefs, right? So when we develop a growth mindset, it involves fostering positive attitudes and beliefs. It's the what I see myself doing, not what I am limited by. It encourages adaptability. I mean, by a show of hands, how many people would like to see some more adaptability in the workplace? And embraces challenges as opportunities for learning, not challenges as, oh, we have to fear them, but challenges as, how can I grow and expand? What might that be? That is an attitude and a belief of growth that we're looking for. That's a mindset. If mindset is transferable, as I said, and I know it to be, when you have leaders and managers around or up and comers that have an attitude of growth and an attitude of opportunity, even in the failures, there is a learning opportunity. When we have that and we're promoting that, friends, I am here to tell you, your team becomes unstoppable. What else does mindset do? Cultivates a positive culture. Now, there is a lot going around. We're just in the newness, the beginning of this year, and there's a lot going around about, how we're going to have strong, healthy cultures in this new year. What do we do? Well, friend, if you haven't already started it, focus on it, but start by focusing on what's the mindset that we have. what Let's define what a positive healthy culture looks like for our organization, how it ties to the why of our organization, the purpose of our organization. What are those core pillars? Right, our company has 5 core pillars that we operate from, and the work that we do aligns back to those 5 core pillars, which are all rooted in our purpose statement, which are all rooted in our values. That creates the culture, like the behaviors are tied to that, so that we're identifying those behaviors for our positive culture. Mindset has everything to do with that also. Leaders focusing on mindset are actually contributing to a creative and positive organizational culture, right? When we're focused on the positive attributes of mindset, it's a values learning environment, a resilience building and innovative environment. When we're focused on those building blocks, that cultivates that mindset of what are we here to do and how are we going to do it, so that when you have that negative Nelly show up and they're not fitting into the culture that we say we are, and the behaviors aren't aligning with who we say we are, you then get to go and have the conversation around what's blocking, what's stopping, what's getting in the way, and what do we want to do about it with Nelly. Negative Nellies, they sometimes get to be invited into new opportunities outside of your organization if they're not able to adapt to or adopt the mindset of the positive culture that you're wanting to set in place with your organization. So be thinking about that. Mindsets are transferable, positive and negative. All right, positive and negative. Here's the other thing that mindset does: it promotes continuous learning, right? Developing a growth mindset involves a commitment to continuous learning. And as we talked about in the previous segment, actually, with mentoring, that is part of it. When we have mentors, which, by the way, if you have people signing up for mentors and negative Nelly on your team wants to be a mentor, as the boss, as the leader, you better be having a conversation with her about maybe why now is not the good idea, good time. Maybe she just needs to be the mentee and learn from people that have positive growth mindsets. Because maybe that negative Nelly is a contributor in a lot of ways, but that mindset, because it's transferable to other people, that negative mindset can derail any good organization or team quickly. So maybe she just needs to be a or maybe she just needs to be a mentee for a while, right? So you want to think about that as we're promoting this continuous learning, like we talked about with the mentoring program, right? Mindset and developing that mindset. It's that commitment, as I said, it's commitment to learning for both oneself as well as for the team, and fostering that adaptability in a dynamic environment. Promoting continuous learning is so important. It helps people to not be, how shall I say it? It promotes people to not be status quo and stagnant or even mediocre. I actually almost was going to have 4 M's today instead of 3 M's, and one of them was going to be mediocre. But then I realized, well, then that actually, I couldn't use my tune of one thing just doesn't belong. So we just went with 3. And I can tell you that mindset, that mediocre behavior pattern, is often, more often than not, actually tied to that mediocre mindset is, or mediocre behavior is tied to a mediocre mindset. It's they look in the mirror and what they see in themselves is less than, and that's how they operate. So how do you shift that perspective? You get them a mentor. How do you shift that thinking? You start talking to them about their goals, their aspirations, and is this the place for them? Because here's what we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for. Here's the positive culture that we are promoting here, and here's how we're doing it. And we want to promote that continuous learning with those people that might not have that mindset. They might be locked onto something less than stellar, as you might want. Okay. Here's the last and final on this topic around your mindset. There's so much done. I don't need to recreate the wheel, but let's remember that mindset values effort and improvement. So I'm gonna stick with negative Nelly for a minute. She's someone who probably doesn't see that her effort and her improvement is actually valued in your workplace. So leaders, if you have a mindset that has the perspective to prioritize effort and behaviors and improvement over perfectionism, right? Hey leader, be better, not perfect, right? We had that episode last year. We recognize that setbacks are part of the learning process. We can let people know that. That negative Nelly on your team might be fearful of having setbacks or frustrated by the setbacks they see, but they lack the skill set to be able to communicate it effectively. And it has hindered them for a long time. It also, well, more often than not, I'll say it that way. Usually, the person that's the negative Nelly with that negative mindset, it's constantly, woe is me, right? Think Eeyore. Think Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. It's always woe is me. The sky, it's going to rain. It's not raining yet, but it's going to rain sometime, right? It's always that, like, that just downer. And who wants to be around a downer all the time? Well, I'm sad for the downers because there's more going on there than meets the eye. And we want to get to it. As effective leaders and good leaders, we want to be supportive to get to the root cause of it so that we show we're valuing that person, the effort that person is putting forward, and we want to help them to learn and grow and not stay stagnant, mediocre, and status quo. Mindset is key to organizational success. It's key to your success. You know the difference between waking up with a doom and gloom, I don't want to go to work today, and everything, is stinky in the world, and you're road raging on the way to work because you're so miserable and unhappy about whatever it is that's going on in your life. You know the difference between that feeling and then the feeling of, how am I looking at my day? What do I have before me? Oh, we had that setback. Okay, what are we going to do to fix it? How do we not stay there but move forward? That's a mindset that's an opportunity, growth mindedness. And it feels different and it shows up different on your whole body and in your facial expressions. So, leader, I want to challenge you today to take a look at your mindset. And remember, mindsets are transferable. Through my behaviors and actions, I'm transferring my mindset to the people closest to me. So, what are you transferring today? Okay, we are 2 M's down. We started out with mentoring and the value of it, and we stepped into mindset, something you've all heard a lot about. And I think we've actually probably, sadly, I think they've seen this movement where we're turning a deaf ear to it. And I want to open up your mind, open up your listening to the value of mindset, that it is transferable, positive or negative. And here comes M number 3. And I want you to then tell me at the end, you're going to be able to identify which one of these 3 doesn't belong. Let's get to it. Okay, here we are. We are at M number 3. And here's what I'm going to say right out of the gate. There are going to be some of you that are going to go, Tam, there is nothing wrong with that M. I like it. I do it. It's necessary. My team requires it. Okay, cool. Are you open to a different kind of conversation around why you use it and whether it truly is benefiting your team? Now, what is it? M number 3, micromanaging. Now, there again, I know I've got people that are listening that are like, I micromanage. I know I have to because the team requires it. Really? Do they? If you're leading the team, why is it that they require micromanaging? If you're implementing the tools and skills of the sandbox, then micromanaging would be something that you would let go of and set aside. Now, I understand that micromanagement, by its nature of what it is, can be advantageous in certain short-term situations, such as while training new employees. You're going to manage closely, and people would phrase that as, you're micromanaging me. No, I'm overseeing what you're doing as we're training you in this new role, or you're new to the company, so that I make sure I'm transferring skill sets, I'm transferring expectations, I'm transferring the culture, right? We go back to mindset. I want my mindset to, my positive mindset, to be transferring to, right, what the expectation is for mindset in our performance with new employees. So yes. Now, micromanaging can also be used in a constructive way when we're wanting to increase productivity of performing employees. 100%. I love it when people say, Tammy, you want me to have daily 20-minute check-ins with my underperforming employee? Well, yes, considering what you've told me that they are and are not doing, it would require that you're going to have more hands-on with them to ensure that they're following the plan that you've given them to follow, and they're learning and adapting to the skill sets that you're needing for them and behaviors that you're wanting from them so that they can succeed. So 20-minute check-ins daily, at least 3 times a week when you have an underperformer? Absolutely. Is that micromanaging? That is working to up level the skill sets based on my expectations of a person who's not performing yet. So micromanaging, maybe, but it's short term because I've given time certain, a time limit, a spread of days, weeks, or months of how I'm wanting to see the turnaround from this underperforming employee. So yes, I'm going to manage it tightly and closely. So in that case, micromanagement can be advantageous. Micromanagement also can be advantageous when we're using high risk issues, like when we're controlling high risk issues. There is that oversight that is necessary. But I'm going to challenge us that what if we drop the word of micromanagement on that and we just have oversight or management? Or again, we're going to daily check-ins. I want to be updated so there are no surprises. We want to be updated so that we can head off any potential problems before they become that, because we're going to see it in advance because we're communicating about it. We can often go down too long and be too loose with our management, especially over critical need areas. And we let people that are underskilled and underqualified to take the reins too far before we pull them back in. And it can have really catastrophic consequences if we're not careful. So there is a point where that micromanagement is necessary, but we also can just call it oversight. We can change the terminology of it when it comes to those short-term seasons and reasons, right? The other place that micromanagement shows up where it's not necessarily a negative is when there is no, or there can be no question of who's in charge. Meaning, I'm putting together a new team. We were all peers. We are coming together to be really clear who is in charge of this project. The one individual, the buck stops here, and we're going to have a regular, consistent, frequent, consistent cadence of meetings and conversations to ensure that we understand the levels of authority. Why is that? So that everybody aligns to the singular level of authority that we need them to align to. That might be considered micromanagement, and by definition it would be, and I'm okay with that. However, here's the difference. You're going to explain why you're doing what you're doing that seems like micromanagement in that moment. Because the cons of micromanagement, okay, simply put, annoys employees. I've heard that a lot. Oh, I'm annoyed, I'm micromanaged. Okay, well, why do you feel that way? I'm going to have that question. Micromanagement makes us vulnerable to human error on both sides. It's not scalable at all when we're micromanaging. Makes managers lose sight of the big picture more often. I get so focused in on the little things that people are doing. I'm not looking, I've taken my eye off the prize of the big picture, where my skill set as the manager of the team or the leader in the organization actually needs to be. Because I'm so in the day-to-day weeds with everybody, micromanaging their work. They've all said, well, hands off for me. I don't need to worry about it because I got micromanager here that's taken the reins for me. I don't have to be worried about the outcomes. Therefore, I'm not putting in my full effort, which ultimately damages employee trust. Okay. Leading to burnout of managers as well as team members, causes employees to become dependent on micromanagement. They're not independent in their thinking. I love it when I go in and I go into work with teams and we do this a working genius assessment, and we see where the productivity, where people fall in the productivity spectrum of that assessment. And it's not personality based, it's all about productivity based, right? And I love it when people say, the leaders that say, well, people just aren't, they're not innovative and they're not coming up with ideas. And it's like, well, actually you have innovators on your team. I can see that from this from this tool. But what I see is that from your management style, you've shut down innovation and you've shut down creative thinking, and they're all dependent on you because you're micromanaging them, right? Here's the last con. It increases employee turnover rate. All things that are not like rocket science. You know this about micromanagement. That's the negative sides of micromanagement, right? Overseeing every detail. Micromanaging involves closely overseeing and controlling every detail of tasks, and it stifles that creativity. So if you are struggling as a leader with team members that are saying they're not motivated, with team members that aren't being creative, they're not bringing to you their latest, greatest ideas, right? You hear that, oh, we don't trust each other on this team. Well, okay, let's take a look at whether or not we're micromanaging. Micromanaging over the long term undermines trust, limits development opportunities. It's very short term focused for the tasks at hand, but it's done over a long term period of time, which is what actually increases the frustration, annoyance, damaging trust, and quite honestly, leading to burnout and turnover. That's what happens when it's done over the long term. But you go back to the beginning of what I was saying about micromanagement, where it actually can, what they term micromanagement, and where it can be a benefit for you. We want to go to explaining why I'm managing this tightly and for how long. For the next 4 weeks, the duration of this project, I want daily check ins to make certain that we hit all of our targets, deadlines, and everything on time and on budget. That's very different than just telling them, come in and report to me every day so that I can see how you're doing. That is when it feels micromanaging. When we have trust in an organization, we also have where our employees, our team members can ask us questions. And therefore, I can answer if they're going to ask me, why does that feel micromanaging? I'm not micromanaging. I'm just ensuring that you have all the resources that you need, that we need to be able to efficiently and effectively complete this project on task and on time. Micromanagement gets out of balance when we don't effectively communicate why we're managing what we're managing and the behaviors that are showing up that are causing us to have to manage it the way that we're managing it. See, micromanagement in and of itself, I actually think it was probably birthed out of a not bad place. But I think that what's happened is that we've allowed it to extend and expand beyond it. It has an expiration date. And I think it's reached its expiration date and how we use it. But we're also not equipping our people. If I need to manage their every moment, everyday activity, and then I'm not effectively equipping my people, then why am I in management? Why am I the leader of the team? If I can't empower people and trust that they're going to do what they need to do and trust that we're going to be able to fix it if they don't. If they don't do what's expected, we're going to be able to fix it and fix it quickly. And then you have a conversation around what happened, what got in the way. And that's a whole nother area that we lean into in our management style of people, in our leading of people. But micromanagement, it can have the pros. Most of the time, 98% of the time, it's used on the negative because we don't efficiently and effectively communicate. So as a leader, micromanagement is one of those things that can truly play against you. And it's something that you want to take a look at. And if we don't take a look at it, then we're not actually looking for improvement, right? We're not looking to strive to be better. So that said, micromanagement habits. We want to break the habit of micromanaging tasks, trust our team's capabilities, and provide the space for the creativity and innovation to flourish. And when we do that, we're actually opening up our employees, our team members, and ourselves to growing and expanding into new territories. And that is healthy in every organization. Hey, thank you for joining me in the Sandbox today. My hope is that you're leaving with new tools, tips, and strategies to navigate your personal leadership, your team leadership, and even that next bold conversation, especially when it comes to micromanaging. The 3 M's are something I hope that you all take a look at and see what can you apply and what maybe do you want to shift and let go of. And remember that mindsets are transferable, positive and negative. And if you have that negative Nelly on your team, it's up to you to have the conversation to identify the behavior and what the behavior is that you want to see changed. Hey, it would mean so much to me if you would take the moment to share this episode with someone that you feel could truly benefit from what we shared in the Sandbox here today. And that can be clicking share wherever you listen to this or watch this content. It also could be capturing the link and sending it in an email so that somebody else on your team or in your network could benefit from knowing more about the 3 M's and how they influence you and every decision that you make. And third-party affirmations go a long way in today's world economy. I'd be honored if you shared the value of what you gained here by spending time in the Sandbox today. Now, remember, friend, leadership isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you grow into. And I want to celebrate you for taking time today to grow into your next level of leadership. Make it a great day.